for finish. So, okay, I'm Jan from Internet Society, and I would like to talk about our NAT64 experiments in Go6 Lab. So, before I joined ISOC, I founded the Go6 Institute in Slovenia. That's not-for-profit organization for deployment of IPv6 for awareness, for raising the awareness about IPv6. And I'm still the CEO of that company because I didn't find any successor. And we still run a Go6 Lab. You will see a picture in a minute. And as I mentioned yesterday, I usually go around the world, talk to operators, and try to figure out what are the problems that they are facing. And NAT64 was one of common things that I heard from operators talking about. So, okay, first the problem statement. Let me walk you through all the 6 degrees of my inner turbulence with this stuff. IPv6 and IPv4 are incompatible on the wire. They just don't talk to each other. If you have IPv6 host and you have IPv4 host, they would not talk to each other, right? So we need some sort of a translation mechanisms between these two protocols. So as mobile operators are massively switching to IPv6 only, for example, if you just have a look at the T-Mobile USA, they have, as we speak, over 52 million IPv6 only devices, Android phones, on their network. And they are IPv6 only. If these devices want to reach IPv4 internet and content, they will go through NAT64 translation. And I'm talking just about one mobile operator. There are several. There is Verizon. There are mobile operators in Europe that are switching over to IPv6 just because Android rolled out 464 XLED that makes it easy. And that means we are getting more and more and more IPv6 only clients. So, what are the important questions here? If you, a content provider, you would have to ask yourself a question, how would all these people see my content? Because if I'm putting content on the internet, I want as many people as possible to reach my content, right? And if I'm mobile operator and switching over to IPv6 only, I want to know if I will break the end user experience, and I want to have a tool that I can check how certain content would be seen from it. Okay, first we implemented in Go6 Lab 4 different NAT64 servers. Let me talk about this first. Okay, no, credits first. Let's get this out of the way. I would like to thank Internet Society for dedicating my time in the lab, my working time, that I can play with these things and experiment with these things. I would also like to thank the Go6 Institute for funding and running Go6 Lab, where I can play. SAGM Stefan, that's Sander Stefan's company. Sander and I did the NAT64Check together, and he did all the coding and everything. And Corinne Pritchard, Sander's girlfriend, for the lovely design for the user interface. So, thank you and hug. Okay, first of all, Go6 Lab NAT64 testbed. We have 4 different implementations. So, for example, I received an email from Lorenzo from Google saying, Jan, thank you for running all these different implementations in your Go6 Lab. While we were building 464 XLED code for Android, we actually tested remotely from Japan all 4 different versions, and one of them behaved weirdly, so we found a bug and fixed the bug in our code. So if you are an operator, if you are a content provider, whatever, it's quite easy to remote test the NAT64. How it is done? Here are the instructions. Where is the laser? Here. If you go here, you will find the very simple instructions that looks like this. So here is the explanation of how the whole thing works. And it says to test different NAT64 setups, you need to disable IPv4 on your device and set an IPv6 resolving DNS server, different one for each setup. And here you have, so if you set on your laptop, if you set this IPv6 address as your resolver, it will start building the quad A's for you for IPv4 only content, and then send your traffic through A10 networks NAT64 that is sitting in Slovenia in Go6 Lab. If you put this one, it will send you through Palo Alto Networks firewall that is sitting in the lab. If you put this one, YOL, that's an open source implementation module for Linux. And if you do this one, yeah, Cisco shipped us ASR 1K that is sitting in our lab doing NAT64 translation. So you have all four of them, test them, send packets through. It's open, it's free, and you decide which one you like the most. These are pictures. Sender calls it a systematic chaos. That's a Go6 lab. These are the machines that are Palo Alto machines that are taking care of the translations. That's the box. So this is a real hardware. This is not something in the cloud. This is a real hardware that is doing the work, and it's available for you to test. Okay. So once we set this up, and then people started using it, and then from time to time I go into the log files and I monitor what's going on in the system, right? And you can see what can possibly go wrong just with using it and testing it, because then you see that people is doing weird stuff, right? There is the enemy inside of every one of us, and people is doing weird stuff on the internet. For example, have you ever seen these values of quad A records? People put in a record of column. Well done. This is not going anywhere. This is really not going anywhere. People put in the value of column 1. This is your local this is your loopback. This is, dude, it will show you your own web page if you're running a web server on your machine. What's wrong with you? Then people put in column, FFF column, and IPv4 address. That also is not going anywhere. Then we have FE80. That's a link local address. If you put the quad A with your link local address and put it into your DNS zone, you're not doing yourself a favor. And some other value. Well, look, this one, that's a documentation prefix. And please explain to me that you were not doing copy-paste. Right. You did it. If you have seen something like this, and you know who did it, please talk to him and tell him that he should start using some tobacco in what he smokes. Really. Seriously. Right? There is more stats here, courtesy of Dan Wing. He's actively searching for this stuff and putting lists out who is doing this stuff. But the problem with this is that if you do something like this and you try to go through a NAT64 environment, you will not see this content because it will break. If you have dual stack environment, then IPv6 stack will give up after a couple of minutes of inactivity, or if you have happy eyeballs, it will just work because IPv4 will bring you content. But with NAT64, you have IPv6 only on your machine, and you rely on it. And then how DNS64 works, if there is no quad A record, it will synthesize you one. But in this case, there is a quad A record. So DNS64 will not synthesize the NAT64 quad A record. Therefore, things will completely break because all you have is just, for example, column 1 as the website address. And of course, operators are not very happy if these things happen, because when people encounter this, people will start calling help desks, right? People start calling help desk, and that is costly for the operators. So, few examples. Firstinsight.com, you see, it's an alias for this site, and it's IPv4 only. If you go without www, has IP address of column. Not good. People fix it. So, when you're deploying things, you need fixes. So what can we do about it? Right, we can talk to people and say, please go and fix your stuff. But you can't talk to everybody in the world, and there is no tobacco everywhere, right? And you need to remember, if you're not part of solution, you are part of a problem. So what we figured out is that IANA assigned just 1/3 block of IPv6 addresses that are currently in use as a global unicast addresses. And we figured out that if there is a quad A record that is pointing to anything outside this, it's most probably bogus and invalid. So there is a way how to do things. Bind. Who is using bind as a resolver? Okay, cool. Here is your config file. You know, I've been known in this industry that none of my presentations can go through without at least some config files examples. So here is the first one. If you do this, this is the NAT64, this is the NAT64 prefix that you use to route your traffic to the NAT64 box. And what you do is, you just exclude everything from 0 up to 2000:/3, and the rest of the IP space, plus documentation prefix that is inside this space. What does this mean? This means that if the NAT64 server gets the quad A, that is anything outside the global unicast address space, it will just ignore it and create the quad A record with the NAT64 prefix, and the content will automatically show to your customer. So you will not break the end user customer experience. Of course, we will talk about this later. There is break DNSSEC, yes. That's all of part of stream of consciousness that you need to put in. This is a hack, but it's a hack that works. And until everybody in the world will fix their quad A records, and until people will use NAT64, we will have to use these hacks. Okay, there is a moment of betrayal. DNSSEC. I'm a big proponent of DNSSEC. I like it, I use it, I talk about DNSSEC all the time. But in this case, you need to set break DNSSEC yes configuration directive. Why? Because when you synthesize quad A records, that means if I go for, I don't know, www.yarn.si, and that if that one would be IPv4 only, the NAT64 server would create a quad A record. And if that zone is signed, is DNSSEC signed, I don't have a way how to sign that quad A record that I just created, because I don't have a private key I don't have a key that was used to sign this zone. That means I have to set the break DNS record check on. How this actually works? If you dig quad A record for 4.go6.si, that should return the quad A record with NAT64 prefix. You will not get anything without break DNSSEC yes, and that's an Enigma machine. That's a complete Enigma machine. If you put in break DNSSEC yes, then you see you would get back the NAT64 prefix plus IPv4 address in a hex format. So this is something you need to do if you want to use this. Unbound, because mostly we use unbound. This is the configuration. This is how you configure the server with the NAT64, and then you go like private addresses are these ones. So that means they will be excluded and ignored if received. If you want to understand more how DNSSEC and DNS64 together works, there is an excellent RFC written by a couple of our friends. It's RFC 6147, and here it's explained how to get around things. Right. So, couple of examples. Firewalls.com. Still waiting for the timeout. That's a NAT64 page. Indeed, it's very secure. It's running on this IP address. It will not work. Just not. Okay. Spain people. I've been told that this was fixed by Jordi, but still. You see, NAT64 and IPv6 is something completely different. Good DNS and bad server. This responds on IPv6 somewhere completely else. Shrani.si, this is from Slovenia. I had to put something from my own country on the shame list. That is sort of like an online storage tool. And here it says that you cannot put files on here because you are not in Slovenia. So geolocation tool on IPv6 was broken. I was sitting inside Slovenia. I was sitting inside my lab. That is decidedly and definitely in Slovenia. So what do you want? But yeah, they decided I'm not from Slovenia because I came over IPv6 address, and that was it. UC.cn, that's what you see over IPv4. That's what you see over NAT64. Nobody knows, but okay, it's a little bit confusing. Then we have these people from Germany. They are trying to sell stuff, but if you sell stuff like this, nobody will buy it. Nobody will click on it. There are no pictures. Huh? Sorry?
The Slovenian
yeah.
website which is called sharani.si.
Yeah.
You can't upload any files. Also, you are from Slovenian people, yes?
Yeah.
But I can use VPN and have an ID from Slovenia?
Yes, but the tool, the geolocation was working on IPv4. Geolocation didn't work on IPv6. Because I was accessing it over IPv6, it thought that I was outside Slovenia. It didn't recognize the IPv6 addresses. So yeah, with this one, if you want to sell stuff, you want to make sure that people see what you're selling. Otherwise, you will not sell much, and you will close the website, and that's probably even a good idea. I don't know. Good server, bad content. So you see, these are all the differences that shouldn't be happening. Then we found some people that hold the household church, and what they did was they put in a quad A record that is pointing to this address that looks valid, and the server is responding to pings, but web server is not listening on IPv6. This will also not work because NAT64 machine will not do the translation. It will just, people will reach to you over v6 and then they will get nothing, right? Then we have working quad A record and IPv4 only content. So as you see here, you see you have a bad gateway, so people on IPv6 only will not see much. People from over NAT64 will see something, and you know, then if you click here, you can go inside the tool. Now I'm already showing you the tool that I want to talk to you later. If you click here, you can get into all the these how they call the elements of the page that were loaded over different protocols. So you can see exactly where your content broke. Okay, so how to test these things? We found many cases where things were broken. And that's how Sander and I, over a couple of beers somewhere, decided that it's time to build a tool that we could test all these things. And it's called NAT64Check. And it does test on NAT64, test on IPv6 only, did all resources, script load okay, does it look good to the user, do we see any path MTUD issues? And that's the version 1 that it does. And that's the tool that's caught in the web. And you can go and check your websites now if you want, if you can listen to me and type in your computer at the same time. I know I can't, but some of you may. It's nat64check.go6lab.si. You will go there, you will see this front page, and in here, if you type in the URL, whichever you have, and press check, it will go and do the test. You can also then do the filtering and the sorting and all this stuff. So here then you have the measurements that were done on this tool previously. Currently we are running this tool from November last year. I think I spoke for the first time in Afrinic in Mauritius about this. And from November to today, we have over 160,000 measurements where people, Megan is overly optimistic here. There is over 160,000 measurements where people typed in their URL and actually saw the test. So it's quite heavily used. All right, I will be quick. What you can do is then you get the result that shows you on this side, it's IPv6 only. So this is how your content is seen from IPv6 only environment. This is how it's seen from IPv4 only, and this is how it's seen from NAT64. And now, if you do the mouse over here, it will show you the difference. You see? It will show you what is the difference, and then you can go and see what actually broke with your thing. Important, we don't fix brokenness here. We don't exclude the bogus quad-I records. We don't fix anything for you. This is how a real user from the internet would see without all these workarounds. And all IPv6 connectivity from all 3 machines is on path MTU limited link. It's limited to 1280 to simulate the tunnel. So if path MTU breaks between my lab and your server, then it will break. Just working IPv6 connectivity will not help you in this case. You need to have it working properly. Otherwise, it will break. And yeah, we have 2 instances. One is nat64check.go6lab.si, and that's running in my lab. And one is nat64check.ipv6-lab.net. That's in Netherlands, in Sander's lab. So the illumination theory below the bonnet, how this thing works. We have a management server and web interface. That's its own server. And then we have server with only IPv4, server with only IPv6, server with NAT64. These are 3 servers that the management server is talking to. You ask the management server to do the test, and this guy sends the commands to all these 3 environments, and they go and use PhantomJS here. They use PhantomJS to fetch the content, render the picture, and then report back which elements loaded, and here is the picture how we can see the content, and then the management server compares the whole thing, and some images and words. This is the master end web interface. This is IPv4 only client. This is IPv6 only client that is connected to different environments, and this is NAT64 DNS64 web client that shows you how your content is being seen from the world. As I already mentioned, enter the name or URL that you would like to test. The process will start all needing browsers to test, and please take the time. Take the time. This is quite a complex process running behind. It will send the command. Sometimes some elements of the page may need to time out, so the browser can report the picture, things like this. Don't frantically press this button, it's not showing anything. It will show you, you just need to take some time. It will show you sort of like this, it's test in progress, and you just wait, have a cup of coffee or I don't know, read some news, and it will come back to you. Wash, rinse, and repeat. If you see that your content is broken, then you need to fix it, of course. Test your website, ask yourself all these questions. Did you hard code any IPv4 addresses in your HTML code? In this case, the NAT64 will fail. Ask yourself first why I don't have IPv6 on my server anyway, because most of things fails with people without IPv6. Fix and test again, and repeat until all three pictures are the same, until you hit 100%. Remember, if you're fixing a DNS, and Mark can tell you about DNS, DNS have TTL. It will take time until your change in DNS propagates to our servers. So come back probably on the next day or something and test again. When we're talking about DNS, for example, you can get away with semi-working DNS zone in IPv4 with NAT64Check. With NAT64, not so much. For example, this one, QQ.com, they put in the SOA that's not subdomain of their own QQ zone, so they misconfigured the whole thing, and of course it didn't work. So having a fully working DNS zone on the internet is also very important. NAT64Check code is available on GitHub. It's free. You can have a look at it. We are also looking for the good developers that would like to be part of a team. We are just now figuring out how to rewrite the NAT64Check for version 2. That will consist out of 3 tiers. First tier would be in Sanders and my lab, and that would be the central machine. And then we will ask people around the world to implement instances around the world. And the central machines would then be able not just to compare the 3 images, but to compare how your content is visible from different parts of the world. And that would be even cooler. We also have a long list of suggestions from the community what to improve. And we will put all that stuff in version 2, but it will take some time because lots of code needs to be rewritten. And it's we are building now a team that will do that. And if you are a Python coder and you would like to volunteer and participate in this thing, more than welcome. Talk to Sander. Okay. As we say, the spirit carries on. There is version 2 coming out. If you're a content provider, test how people sees your content. If you're a network provider, if you're a connectivity provider, test how your IPv6 only clients will see the content. If you are both, well, all of the above. And with this, you might be surprised. Well, you probably will be surprised. And I think it's time for questions. Or we don't have time for questions. One question. Yes. Please come to the mic.
Hi, my name's Alan Levine. I've had success with the front page on IPv6, but as soon as you submit a form, then you're going into a back-end process which sometimes breaks when you're using IPv6 on a website which theoretically works on IPv6, but has a broken back-end.
Did you check it through this tool?
Unfortunately, I only found out about this tool after it was fixed.
Ah, okay. Well,
But have you had experience with forms and the way that the form gets submitted off the site?
we don't
that's
go
the question.
into that much detail because we use Phantom.js as a command line browser that fetches the content, and then we just do simple comparison. We don't go into details. We show you the raw format of what each of these environments actually got, and then you need to fix it out, to figure it out which one broke and which one you need to fix. But we will build more intelligence into version 2, but I'm not sure we will go in that depth. We will probably more visibly emphasize your issues, but not go into the form details. Yeah.
It's just something to keep in mind.
Yeah. Thank you.
So this is a really good system to avoid systematic chaos.
Yes.
Cool.
Thank you. So did anyone do the tests while you're here? And what's the result? 100? Wow, well done. Anybody else is using the tool? Okay. Well, use it. It's there. It's free. It's made for you. Thank you very much.